This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib, and we all learned at the same exact time on Thursday night what an edema is. Thomas Carinante is still on vacation. We'll be back on Thursday, but joining me again to break down the latest on the New York Yankees is BetSided's Peter Dewey. Peter, we went out together on Thursday before the Cole news came out, and ultimately we have more to explain now than we did last time we did a show that was just like, this is crazy and definitely sucks no matter the outcome. Sucks a little bit less. Got confirmation that it sucks a little bit less, but still going to be pretty much on edge for the next couple months, I would say.
Yeah, it was better news than I think we were both expecting on Thursday, but at the same time, it's still like the way I'm kind of looking at it in the back of my head is, hey, in 2 months from now, is he going to still be having issues? Like, it's great to say that he doesn't need surgery right now, and I think every Yankees fan is happy about that, but they're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination just yet.
We will talk about that, of course, as well as the fifth starter race, the progress in the bullpen over the weekend. Luis Heel, Will Warren, plenty of thoughts. A Blake Snell rumor that would be an absolute nightmare if it did go down. It allows me to yell a little bit about the way that the Yankees treat their roster, which we did the last time that we spoke as well, but let's do it again. Plus, Nestor Cortes gets the opening day start. Marcus Stroman doesn't want to mess with his routine, yay or nay. We'll talk both sides probably, I guess, but ultimately probably a non-controversy. Thank you for joining us live here. This is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. If you are a new user, we're offering a fantastic sign-up bonus via DraftKings for all new users. New customers can place a $5 first bet on any sport to instantly claim $150 in bonus bets when you sign up with our code YanksGoYard. Just because it's a baseball code doesn't mean you have to bet baseball. March Madness is coming. $5 first bet on any sport. You'll claim that $150 in bonus bets as long as you sign up with our code YanksGoYard. You'll get it even if your first bet loses. It not only gets you the bonuses, it also directly supports the podcast. So if you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure to use the code YanksGoYard to maximize your first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus, physically present, legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check that episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. And the Cole news qualifies as good news for sure. For anybody wondering what the difference was between what we learned on Thursday night and what we'd already known on Wednesday or Tuesday, whenever the actual word first came out from John Heyman that he was flying to see Dr. Elitrosh, the difference is that this was actual confirmation from the foremost Tommy John doctor that Tommy John is not necessary. Peter and I detailed on Thursday's show that no UCL tear had been previously perceived. The doctor liked what he saw in the scans, but wanted to check things out in person. That's often not very good because it could mean a hidden small tear, a non-tear that still portends Tommy John surgery. And everybody importantly noted he avoided Tommy John for now. You never know. No pitcher avoids Tommy John permanently for their entire career. You just hope to escape your whole career without having to have the surgery, or at least maybe it's at the end of your – look, pitching is awful. Don't do it because you're probably going to need Tommy John surgery. But Cole, his elbow, it ends up just being 3-4 weeks of no throw, inflammation, and an edema in there. So below that information, no tear, according to the world's top elbow surgeons who most certainly wanted to do a surgery if they had to. And so this means, okay, good news, Cole really might be back in May or early June. But bad news, April, no Cole, May, no Cole, most likely. And you never know if this thing flares up to a point where you got to worry about it again. So he sounded upbeat when he finally returned to camp and started talking to, folks in the know. But yeah, I mean, you'd rather have Gerrit Cole than not have Gerrit Cole. So no one's throwing a parade here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it is a good scenario for the Yankees. Like you said, there's a potential he's back at sometime, maybe late May. I'd say if the timeline holds up from what they're saying, worst case June. But at the same time, you got to hope this entire process, like he's not going to throw for 3 to 4 weeks. Then you got to hope when he does start throwing that he doesn't have the same symptoms that he's had this spring. Like there's a chance that he doesn't. There's also a chance that he does. So it's not a guarantee that, he takes 3-4 weeks off and he's back to Cy Young winner Gerrit Cole. Like there's still a process, and I think there's going to be a little bit of anxious moments just as a for the Yankees and Yankees fans in general, just these first 2 months of the season, because one, you have to find a way, can this team stay afloat without Gerrit Cole every 5 days? And two, is Gerrit Cole going to be ready to go when he's first expected to be ready to go? Because there's a chance, if he has a setback, that could be another couple weeks, could be another month. Like, we don't really know. So, I mean, it's a great sign he doesn't need Tommy John for now, because it means this season you're still, the all-in moves that they made with the Soto trade are still back on. It seems like there's a chance there, but I don't want to, count my chickens before they hatch here and say, oh, we're good, he'll be back and he's going to pitch great this year, because we just don't know yet.
I mean, you'd be crazy to be a Yankee fan who's followed this specific team for the last half decade, full decade, and be like, oh, yeah, that injury timeline will probably hold up. Yeah, 2 months is good. Sure, after the no-throw, he'll be fine. We obviously have a long way to go before Cole returns, but at the very least, probably don't have to hear about him for a couple weeks. That those couple of days of being completely on edge, just waiting out the next Cole bomb to drop, those were awful, and I would prefer not to be living in that world. And now he's going to probably silently, at least 3 to 4 weeks of no throw. So if he gets further injured in the next 3-4 weeks, it won't be from throwing, and it'll be a typical Yankees bit of nonsense where, I don't know, a bow and arrow accident or something. But he's not going to be throwing for quite a while, so we won't have to hear about that. Probably more impactful is the Blake Snell consequence of the whole thing. And it looked like on Friday evening, at least for a couple hours, that we were probably going to be doing a Blake Snell Signs with the Astros podcast on Monday. It felt like the Josh Hader stuff in that no need had material. So the Astros were technically connected to Snell a while ago, because there was a rumor that emerged around the time they signed Hader that last deadline, they tried to acquire both Snell and Hader from the Padres. It fell apart. They pursued Hader, etc. But the Hader thing developed in the same way. It was from nowhere to seriously pursuing to contract done the next morning. And that's the recent history of the Astros seriously pursuing a free agent is sort of, hey, this is already done. We're just figuring out a way to get it to the finish line. And then once we do, we'll announce it shortly thereafter. We got the same news on Friday that the Astros went to Snell's showcase, were seriously pursuing him, and then crickets, because as it turns out, they don't want to pass that third tax threshold where the Yankees are, where the Yankees kind of wish they weren't, to be honest. And they're offering Snell a contract, according to the rumors, that's around $20 million AAV, or at least that's how much they have left to spend before they hit that threshold. Snell holding firm at 2 years and $60+ million as the low end of his short-term ask. So far, not good for those two sides. That's nowhere close to a midpoint. Snell's not moving. And the Giants are now, once again, the current favorite to sign Snell. Though, there is nothing more cursed than being the favorite to sign Blake Snell this offseason. That is not a real thing that exists. And if Snell does lower his ask, the Astros are interested, and that would mean that a serious pursuit could again come together pretty quickly. Yankee fans have to be rooting for anything but Houston here, because Blake Snell doesn't scare me the way that Gerrit Cole scared me necessarily, but you can't pretend that he's not very good and that he wouldn't make an Astros team even better as they attempt to make, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So this would be their 8th straight ALCS if they do it. You certainly don't want them replacing a number 4 starter in Jose Urquidy with literally Blake Snell. But that's what the Astros do and what the Yankees don't do very often. We're not out of the woods here yet.
Oh, no, not at all. And I think it would be a massive organizational failure by the Yankees if they allowed Blake Snell to go to Houston with the uncertainty around Cole. If everybody was healthy for the Yankees and they were just like, you know what, we like what we have, I wouldn't 100% agree with it, but I could understand it. The fact that you know for a fact Gerrit Cole's at least out a month, potentially 2 months to open the season, and there's a chance that, in the odds to win the AL, the team ahead of you in Houston, and the team that is been by far the biggest thorn in your side for the last almost decade at this point, you could potentially let him go there. Like, it would be a double whammy, because now you're all of a sudden you go and you look, and like, the argument you could make for the Yankees if they did make a Blake Snell move is if Cole gets back, you would could on paper say they have the best rotation in baseball if healthy. If you let him go to Houston, do you even have a better rotation than the Astros come playoff time? Probably not. So exactly. So it's a scenario where I would be frustrated if they let that happen. But at the same time, if the asking price comes down, you have to think if the asking price comes down to where the Astros can get involved, you'd think the Yankees would be involved at that price as well. Maybe they can, just outbid them. Not 100% sure, but I also think it's just all the more reason to why not? You already went all in for this year with the Soto trade. Why not just go all in now? Do not let him go to the Astros. Do not do what you did when you let them trade for Gerrit Cole because you balked at trading Clint Frazier and Miguel Andujar a few years ago. And then, that was what? It was Frazier, Andujar, and Chance Adams, and then you ended up DFAing all three of those guys. You don't have to give up any prospects. Don't balk at this move, and then if we come down to it and we get to the ALCS again and we lose to Houston, we're like, man, I wish we had Blake Snell. It's you could have had him again, so don't let that happen again.
Yeah, if you do that 110% taxation thing, that if it somehow does get down to $20 million a year in the Astros range, the Yankees have to be in on that.
Oh, yeah.
$40 million for 2 years of Blake Snell is totally palatable, and 110% tax. Then you're up to 80-ish million for 2 years of Blake Snell. Fine. Then opt out at the end of this year, opt out at the end of next year, whatever. The only positive about the Astros getting involved is maybe it's the only thing that can scare the Yankees into the market, but it hasn't been in the past. They didn't get it in the Zach Greinke market in 2019 at the deadline. They let Houston just waltz right in there and go grab him. When the Mets wanted to pay off Justin Verlander's contract, where did he go? Certainly didn't go back to the Yankees. Steve Cohen and Hal Steinbrenner didn't talk about that. The Astros always seem to be at the forefront of winning at all costs. And so if this tax trip of the difficulty of making it from the second tier to the third tier, if that's finally the thing that kills the Astros, where they're okay, even we can't do that, that's the one thing we won't do, then that'd be great. Because right now, though, it's so emblematic of the way the two organizations operate that Houston would be eyeing Snell and going to his throwing sessions and trying to figure out a way to fit him in their budget just because Verlander's out for 2 weeks to start the season and Jose Urquidy has an elbow injury, and right now it's a forearm strain. He's not even, another non-Tommy John diagnosis for now, but that's a back of the rotation guy coming down with an elbow issue, and then all of a sudden the Astros are oh, can we get Blake Snell? Meanwhile, the Yankees have literally Gerrit Cole down for 1 to 2 months minimum with an elbow injury. And they're we're going to look internal. I think Will Warren and Clayton Beeter are good fits. The Astros always want to get better at all costs. And again, if the tax trips them up, I'll erase this take. This take will go away. I will delete it. But it does feel like they're always looking to get as much better as they possibly can. Whereas the Yankees would love to get better, right? They would love to get, hey, Juan Soto is available on the trade market. We got enough pitching depth to make that happen. They're not averse to getting better, but it has to happen under the right circumstances for them. And when they're at this high tax level, they're not just hey, we're already over the limit. Let's go grab Blake Snell. Let's have the best rotation in baseball. And most importantly, let's stop Houston from getting him. At this level of taxation, they're very firmly that is not the kind of improvement that fits in our plans. We're going to wait and see what comes on to our plate at the deadline. And then hopefully those prospective deadline additions also fit within their budget, because if they don't have the financial room for those guys either, Gerrit Cole's best deadline addition you can make. We've heard Brian Cashman say it 5 years in a row. So you have to prepare yourself again for that.
Yeah, Brian Cashman's go-to move at the deadline is bringing back the guy who's been out all season, whether it was Luis Severino, whoever it was, and saying, "Oh yeah, remember we got this guy too," and then it doesn't matter, halfway through the year. I also just find it crazy. You're already over the tax, you already kind of you put your eggs in the basket. You did this, made the Soto trade. He's on a 1-year deal. Why not? Why not this be the year of all years to just say, screw it, we're gonna pay a shit ton of tax? Why not? To me, it makes too much sense. The fact that they're balking on it, I don't know. I don't understand the thought process there. And I think you make a great point about the trade deadline. They got to hope somebody fits in that budget too. There's no guarantee. One, the right player comes available at the deadline for you. Two, there's no guarantee that they're affordable. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, you look at last year with some of the guys that came available at the deadline, like, you didn't want to pay Justin Verlander all the money. Like, the Mets obviously ate a ton of money. They ate a ton of Scherzer money. Like, there were teams that were like, we'll give up better prospects because we don't want to, pay this contract. And you look at the Yankees, it's like, how many prospects have they given up for deadline deals that haven't worked out? You don't lose anything here if you sign Blake Snell other than the money. And we know the Steinbrenners have the money. So to me, it's just like, it seems like such a perfect match because you bring him in, you save the prospects, and if it's a short-term deal and it works, great. If it doesn't work, you're not handicapping the franchise for the next 10 years. It's a 2-year deal. Like, you pay the tax for 2 years, and if it doesn't work in 2026, you can say, oh, we're not going to be a tax team this year and do whatever the hell that you're going to do to avoid it. Like, you can do that. It's not impossible. It's not like they're having to commit to 10 years of Blake Snell and this is what it's going to be. Like, we were so willing to make the Giancarlo Stanton trade after, Cashman didn't, and he made the right move, but Cashman didn't want to sign Robinson Cano to the long-term deal because after the A-Rod disaster, but they were so willing to make the Giancarlo Stanton trade. And that's the thing that's backfired the most on them. And then they'd make the DJ LeMahieu contract 6 years instead of 3. And it's backfired on them because they're stuck with all this money. Why not make a short-term move so you can get out of it and there's no long-term ramifications? It's crazy to me that it's not even a thought process, it seems like.
Yeah, and they did cut payroll around the Stanton edition, so it's not the first time they've nicked payroll in an important year, despite making a massive addition. I'll always go back to the Gerrit Cole offseason too. We did it. We landed our white whale. Which other major leaguers are you signing? Brett Gardner. So if we could have a really actual all-in offseason, that would be fantastic. But at the very least, it would be nice to get the Yankees to a place where they look at a short-term, expensive Blake Snell deal as a win, not as an L, because they can't stretch it out to their liking, which, again, then hamstrings their 2027, 2028 payroll. It's possible that Blake Snell is the kind of guy who the only way you should pay him that amount of average annual value is if you could do it for just this year and next year. That seems like a dream, but it's not for the Yankees, who are worried about this taxation. Either way, the fact that he's not in Houston yet is a good thing, because it definitely felt on Friday like we were moving towards an early Saturday morning announcement of Blake Snell to the Houston Astros. And he makes that rotation instantly better, and that rotation doesn't need help. It's the Havs getting better. Again, they're in the ALCS every single year. Honestly, it doesn't even matter what their record is in the regular season. I'm still picking them to get to the ALCS, but Blake Snell certainly makes them more fearsome in that pursuit. And the Yankees, instead of a Snell type or a big name, they do have they have a 5th starter race ongoing because of Cole going down. Rodon pitching today against the Philadelphia Phillies. What we're seeing so far, I'm checking the score. He's gotten through 4 hitless innings. Carlos Rodon has got an Alec Boehm pop out to close out the 4th so far. Yeah, 4 hitless, 1 walk, 3 Ks, exactly what you want to see from someone whose future was very much up in the air 2 weeks ago. Then Stroman, overall pretty okay. Nestor Cortes, overall a lot of hits, but he's working on stuff pretty fine. You'll take it. This rotation, Clark Schmidt was probably the guy who looked the most comfortable until one of his most recent outings, when immediately after I wrote that he looks comfortable, suddenly he doesn't anymore. That's how it goes. But you'll take the performance from all 4 of those guys. In the 5th starter race, essentially it's down to Luis Gil, you'd think, because he blew the Blue Jays away. 4 innings of just 99-mile-an-hour cheddar on Saturday. Is he a reliever? Is he a starter long-term? I'm not sure. With Michael King gone, first from the bullpen, then from the rotation after they converted him, they're still looking for that multi-inning bullpen guy. Wouldn't surprise me if they saw what Gil was doing and just said, could you give us 3 innings twice a week out of the bullpen? That would be great, especially as he recovers from Tommy John. Aaron Boone definitely made it seem like Will Warren was the leader in the clubhouse for that spot after his outing yesterday, which began with an error, a hit, a 3-run homer, comes back out for the 2nd, blows away the Red Sox, comes back out for the 3rd, blows them away again. Resilience. Look, I'd rather a pitcher not struggle, but if he's going to show me some resilience, it'd be good if he does it in a game that does not matter at all, especially with mostly unearned runs. So Warren really impressed Boone. Greg Joyce, the Daily News or the New York Post. I wish I decided that correctly the first time. But Greg Joyce, who is of the New York Post, wrote that Aaron Boone's tone talking about Warren was, quote, reminiscent of the way he sounded about Anthony Volpe around this time last year. So it feels like Warren might be the guy. Do you feel confident in that decision to start the year? Would you rather they roll with Heel right off Tommy John? Or put Heel in that bullpen? Because I don't think Heel's going to AAA. So I think either way, you're probably getting the best of both worlds here.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is I just want Heel on the major league roster. I think he has to be there. It seems like Warren is going to get the 5 spot. The thing I think is interesting is like the guys he's competing with, which Beater hasn't been horrible this spring, and he's a younger guy, but like Luke Weaver and Cody Petit, like we know what they are. They've been in the major leagues. They're back end starters on bad baseball teams. Like if we're gonna roll with one of those guys, what are we doing? Like I'd rather see any combination of Beater, Warren, or Heel out there, just because there's somewhat of an unknown. You might have found something there. And if they don't pitch well, they don't pitch well. But like, why are we going to go with like Luke Weaver had like a 6 ERA last year? Like, why are we going to, we know what he is.
He's got a new cutter. He's got a new cutter. He's a different guy.
So it's like that to me is crazy. The thing that concerns me, like, I think personally Heel would be my choice just because I think he has the highest upside. But you mentioned it, like he's coming off of Tommy John, so the length is a question. Is he only going to be able at the beginning of the year to give you 4 innings every start, and then you're killing the bullpen every 5 days? And the other thing that concerns me with him, though, in that long-term bullpen role, is his biggest drawback is he has a tendency to walk guys. He's walked 4 guys in 11 innings so far this year. So if you bring him into somewhat high leverage situations like you used Michael King last year, like, are you bringing him in and he walks the first 2 guys and then you're like, well, we needed 3 innings out of him and now he's already in trouble. So that is kind of a tricky scenario. And obviously, Boone's going to have to manage that with how he feels these guys fit. I'd be fine with either Heel or Warren. Like I said, I think Heel has more upside, but it just kind of comes down to I want them to go with one of the young guys just because you might have something there. You might not, but you might have something there versus the 28, 29-year-old journeyman who hasn't been able to stick with a team for a reason. Like those signings were just so on brand for the Yankees to be like, well, we got a major league arm. And it's like, you really didn't though. So I'd rather see them roll with the young guys. If it seems like Warren's going to be the guy, then you have to think Heel's at least in the bullpen to start the year.
Yeah, and give them credit. Maybe you start piggybacking Warren with Heel. I don't hate that. Yeah, I don't hate that either. But you're right. He has to be on the big league roster in some capacity. I've liked what I've seen from Poteet, but it's got AAA options. You got to stash him there. He can't be on the big league roster to start the year. And Luke Weaver, classic Yankees, former first-round pick fetish. Just like he's a first rounder. He's a Cardinals first rounder. I don't know why you wouldn't want him on the roster. I mean, look, fine, but certainly not my choice. Not someone who I was eager to see them sign to a major league deal. I got a tip from a source that the Yankees were going to make a move, and I was like, "Huh?" And it was Luke Weaver, and I was like, "Is that even a move?"
That doesn't count.
Like, wait, isn't he? Oh, I guess he is. Yeah, okay, I guess we re-signed him. Cool. So I mean, yeah, he's flown under the radar this spring. That funny Yankee fans are the funniest. Like Luke Weaver woke up with a stiff neck at some point this spring and got scratched, and a bunch of fans were like, "Here we go again, injuries." And it was like, into Luke Weaver, like that's Luke Weaver slept wrong. You're gonna chalk that up to the Yankees curse. Okay, I think we have to be a little more judicious with giving that label out. But either way, all of these injuries have resulted in opening day starter Nestor Cortes, which is preferable to a bullpen game. People were talking about that possibility this time last week. That would have been sad for this storied franchise. I also don't want to take aim at any Yankee fans who were saying anything online because we all speak in the heat of the moment. We're all angry sometimes. Everyone who was like, wow, the Yankees not having a backup plan for their opening day starter after Gerrit Cole got hurt says it all. No, it actually doesn't. It says that Gerrit Cole is the best ace in baseball, and they were intending for him to start on opening day. So in terms of things that say it all, that is actually one of the things that says the least. It just says that, oh, we wanted Gerrit Cole to pitch, and now we can't. So I'll ask, Nestor, that's a fun one. He did dominate the Astros last year, right before he went back on the IL. A guy with a great story, all-star pedigree in 2022. the other options are imperfect, right? There's a world where you could put Carlos Rodon on the mound opening day, but I think after the disaster season he had last year, Aaron Boone would probably prefer not to invite that narrative into the opener, and I am down with that. The other option, Marcus Stroman, is currently preparing to be the number 3 starter. So bumping him up in his routine, which is why he declined the offer, which also would have knocked him off for the home opener against Toronto, something I respect that he wants. It's not just a simple question of, all right, let's move him a day or two different days off, right? Because he was aiming to be the number 3, suddenly wanted to be the number 1. That's going to change his prep work. Everybody complaining about that. What happens if they switch up his prep work, accelerate the program, and he comes down with an elbow injury in the last 2 weeks of spring training? You would be killing them. So I don't think this is Stroman being selfish at all, giving way to Nestor here on opening day. I am curious what you think, though, because look, the story gets reported the way it gets reported because this is Marcus Stroman. We do find out because of who he is that they asked him and he declined, and they came to a mutual agreement that he wouldn't be moved. We only find out that conversation took place the way it did because he's a controversial pitcher and he's someone who Yankee fans already feel a certain way about before he joins the team. I do not begrudge him passing on this opportunity for road opening day at all, especially since, look, a borderline homegrown lefty arm former All-Star is going to take it over instead. It was way easier to just take it easy on Nestor because he was 3 days off. You don't really have to bump up his routine. You just slow it down a little bit as opening day approaches. And then let's say he only gives you 4 really good innings. In comes Heel. Then you get to look at him early too, which I think a lot of fans probably want to see. So it was down to Nestor and Schmidt. I think they made the right call under the circumstances. And I don't know if you differ on the whole Stroman thing, because honestly, I think that's a whole nothing burger.
Yeah, I got a couple hot takes here that I think might get people going. One, I don't really care who's starting opening day if Gerrit Cole wasn't going to start opening day. I do not care. As soon as Gerrit Cole got hurt, it doesn't matter who's starting opening day. The only way this is like a controversy, and I'm surprised people even like were making it somewhat of a controversy, is if the Yankees had like 2 borderline 2 starters and they were trying to decide who was going to be the ace, and then they made one guy the Yankees have the best, arguably the best pitcher in baseball. If he can't pitch opening day, who cares who goes opening day? Like, I'm fine with Nestor. I agree with you. I think like Nestor in some respects has earned it. And you look at you mentioned it, his outing against the Nationals last year, went 4 innings, struck out 8 guys, gave up 1 hit in August last year. So it's a good matchup for him. Like, he's pitched well against them before. I'm fine with him getting the ball. And then I got another hot take that some Yankees fans were like, I love Marcus Stroman. I think he's going to be great for this Yankees team. They need somebody. I mean, we see it out of Cole on occasion, like with some fire on the mound. Like, there's been way too much of the Yankees, like just nothing. And I mean, Severino had it occasionally, but he was just never healthy. Like, I want to see a guy who really cares. Like, it's very obvious Marcus Stroman cares. You can like him or not, but he cares about, what he's doing out there. And that to me is admirable for a player. And you hit the nail on the head. If Stroman gets rushed into this and he gets hurt, now we lost 2 starters. Like, why would you even consider doing that? I completely understand where he's coming from. If they asked him this a month ago and he was like, no, I can't do, I would be like, all right, that's a little crazy. But it's 2 weeks to the season. I mean, it's a crazy move to even like be care. Like, the fact that he was like, no, I'm good. I'd rather him be healthy and make 30 starts this season than pitch on opening day. Anybody who says otherwise is lying to themselves. Like, that's crazy. And again, like you said, home opener against the Blue Jays. It's a perfect revenge spot for him. He's a New York kid. He gets a pitch for the first time as a Yankee in Yankee Stadium. Like, you can't really write it any better than that. That's great. So, I mean, the idea of a controversy on opening day, like, it's, if any other team in baseball that had a clear-cut ace had their ace get hurt and they had to go to another guy, people would not be making a huge deal about them not pitching whatever pitcher on opening day. You go with the guy that makes the most sense. I think Nestor makes the most sense here. And like you said, maybe you get a look at one of the young guys right after. Could be a fun little, opening day. But I mean, and Nestor, I mean, out of all these guys, like, Nestor's definitely deserved. He's earned his stripes in terms of, being released, come back, released, come back, like, gets to the All-Star game. Like, let him get an opening day start. I saw his quote about it. He was like, he never thought this was like, he talked about how like he was shocked to be an All-Star game, but he's like, I never thought I'd be opening day starter for the New York Yankees. Like, that's awesome. Let him get this start. Let it be his moment. And like, again, we play 162 games. Why are we going to harp over opening day like it's game 7 of the World Series? I don't know. To me, it's a little crazy.
Yeah, just about nothing matters less in the grand scheme of things than opening day. There's good pageantry involved, and you're excited to see baseball back. But whenever the Yankees open at home, it's like 38 degrees on opening day. There's 15 people there. Everybody's wearing turtlenecks, and like I think it was 2016, might have been 17, but there was an opening day game against the Astros where Dellin Betances came in, got a little dribbler. It was like 35 degrees, got a dribbler, threw it over the first baseman's head. They blew like a 3-0 lead mid-game. The game just rolled. It was the worst game imaginable. And that team wasn't very good either. But it's not like they didn't pack it in after that. Like you couldn't, that was the worst opening. That was awful. And they weren't like, I think it's over for us. I think we got to get like, look, if Nestor has a tough start in Houston, that is reasonable. That could happen. Absolutely. But he could also air it out for 3 or 4 innings and be very good. Turn the ball over to Heel, gives you 3 more, give it to the bullpen stalwarts. Maybe you get lucky, win a game. It's already not going to be fun starting the season in Houston, by the way. Spoiler alert. So do what you can. Get a couple of wins in there. Hope to split a 4-game series. Regroup later in the season. You're going to have to tread water for a little while. I'm sorry. And if you're a Yankee fan, that's nothing new. Like April, they've been 500 in April most of the past several years, out 2022 notwithstanding. In 2018, I think, well, I guess they've actually been pretty good a couple Aprils lately, but it's been par for the course to be just like, fine in April. And then you turn it up as the season goes on. Without Gerrit Cole, it's probably going to be pretty similar this year. But the controversy here, I don't get it. At Yahoo Sports headline for the breaking news, Yankees name Nestor Cortes, parentheses, 4.97 ERA in 2023 as Gerrit Cole's opening day starter replacement. Fuck you for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I think, too, like, they haven't played Houston well in the regular season for years now. Like, they might not win this series. They might not even split this series. Like, again, it's games 1 through 4 of 162. Like, the season doesn't hinge on this series. It doesn't hinge on the first month of the year. They obviously, you'd like to see them like play at least 500 ball without Gerrit Cole, but we saw in 2022 they got out to the fastest start you could potentially get out to, and they still didn't finish with the 1 seed in the AL. So it's like, what are we getting so worked up about over one game? And I think the idea, like that Yahoo headline, but the idea to like bash Nestor, like, yeah, he had a bad year last year. He was also hurt for most of the year. He was an all-star the year before. I think they have to get, like, he's going to be in the rotation. He 100% deserves the Yankees, like, giving him a shot to be like, hey, same way I feel like, and I think everybody kind of feels like this after how he pitched at the end of last year. Same way I feel about Clark Schmidt. Like, there's no way that Clark Schmidt should be, if he has a couple rough outings at the beginning of the year, people should be like, oh, he's deep sixth, he's done. We got to figure something out. Like, both of those guys have clearly like earned their stay in this rotation compared to a lot of other pitchers that have come through the rotation in the last several years. So I think, it's a good moment for Nestor. And if he pitches great, everybody's going to talk about how great a move it was to pitch Nestor on opening day. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. 4.97 ERA in 2023, though. We know he was really bad last year. A lot of people were injured. It's a weird team. It's a pretty bad season, but that's why 2024 will hopefully be a better one. I'm on board with Nestor. And if he struggles, guess what? Still on board with Nestor, to be honest. That's it for this show. Thanks for joining. Like the comments say, DJ LeMahieu hopefully back by opening day. Aaron Judge going to be in Wednesday's lineup, purportedly. We'll see about that. Aaron Judge has been supposed to be doing a lot of things. Spring training continues to be the most fun if you're there and the absolute worst if you're not, because now we're going on 3.5 weeks of fake baseball games where real New York Yankees are getting actual injured. DJ LeMahieu lined a ball off his own foot. That could happen in any game, but you'd much rather it happen in a game that has some bearing on the standings rather than in March. You risk life and limb anytime you play baseball. And so now no fracture, apparently doing okay. Apparently the foot he's injured in the past. Okay. Neato. Could we just, again, we're close. We're 10 days away from opening day in Houston. Would love to just sim there. Don't want to think about Trevor Bauer and Team Mexico facing the Yankees in an exhibition game. I don't want to think about any of these things. I just want to see actual baseball. Again, that DraftKings code is Yanks Go Yard. Sign up if you haven't with our code. You get those no sweat bonus bets and you help out the podcast if you are a new user. Peter Dewey, where can everybody find you if they want to catch up with you between shows? I appreciate you coming on again, helping me out.
Yeah, of course. You can find me over on social media at Peter Dewey too. It's basically my handle everywhere. And then you can find all my stuff on BetSided, fansided.com/BetSided. I'll also be writing some stuff across the Fansided network. But BetSided is where you'll find most of my stuff, especially my MLB stuff. Gonna probably this year have a MLB best bets column every single day. So there'll definitely be some Yankee props in there and some Yankee picks. So if you're looking to tail those, check that out for sure.
If you happen to be a fan of the New York Yankees, make sure you keep an eye out for that content. Thanks again, Peter, for joining. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you all back here on Thursday, 2:00 Eastern, same time, same channel, or on the audio feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. If you can't find our podcast, send a letter to the manager, request it, because they will. They'll help you out. Pull a Karen, beg for the Yanks Go Yard podcast, and they'll get it done for you. For Peter Dewey, I am Adam Weinrib. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye.